Guys, I just came back from town and I've noticed there's another Turkish Barbers opening up. That makes like 3 or something in a massively small town. I just got my hair cut at the local barbers that I always get it cut out, all right? And I just like, there's no reason to have these barbers there. I know why it is. I'm going to explain why it is. It's money laundering, but I'm going to explain why nothing is being done about it, all right? And how corrupt our government is, unnecessarily corrupt. Without our government being as corrupt as it is, this country would fall. I'm going to explain that to you. Also, Ground News are sponsoring this video, and that's where I get all my news. All right, I'm not going to give you an advert, but in the middle of this, there is a 2-minute piece that I will talk to you about Ground News. It's unbiased news. It's brilliant. And the offer that they're giving you, like 40% off, I use that offer myself. It's the Vanguard package, top package. I use it myself. So try and get it if you can get it, all right? Get it now. They're just sponsoring the video. It's brilliant. People are sponsoring my videos. Madness, because YouTube don't pay no money at all. Look, the problem is, my barber's a really small little barber, okay? And I look down the road and there's these 3 other Turkish barbers now. No one's in them. And they've got the widescreen TVs and that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? That money's going somewhere. It's being laundered. It's drug money, county lines, being laundered. We know that's happening. It's not just the hairdressers, is it? It's also the nail salons. It's also those candy stores down Oxford Street in London, right? Now, my hairdresser is a young lady, and I know Samson Delilah should never let a woman cut your hair. What happened to Samson? He lost his strength. Samson had really long hair. This is an important part of this video. This is an important part of the story. Really long hair. Once defeated an entire Philistine army using nothing more than a donkey's jawbone. I'm just spitting facts at you right now. He took a bit of Eeyore and took some slappage down on an army. That's what he did, right? We need to be a bit more like Samson. Now, the problem with Delilah, right, evil hag, she got a slave to cut a bit of her heart. She was bribed by the Philistines. She got a slave to cut a bit of his hair off, and then he got captured. His strength got captured by the Philistines. And then they cut his eyes out. There's a good bit of this, though, and I'm going to leave it to the end because it's a good lesson in what men should be. It's what happened when Samson sort of stood up and went, I've had enough of this, you know what I'm saying? So what happened then? We've got these barber shops, and obviously they are massively fraudulent and they're laundering money. Now, why is this possible? I've written down on a post-it note here. The former Foreign Secretary Andrew Mitchell back in 2024 said that 40% of the world's dodgy money, the world's dirty money, gets laundered through the UK. The UK is literally there to launder money. We're built on false profits, basically, all right? But not those kind of profits that I'm going to talk about in a minute. Profits, false revenues, all right? So it's the number 1 hub. We are the number 1 hub for money laundering. Everyone knows it. Everyone knows it. And you wonder, oh, I'm not going to go there. My argument to you is that we've lost the social contract. The contract that our government gives to us, that we're going to be safe, that we can get an education, we can get jobs, we can buy a house, we can have children, we can, you know, all that kind of stuff, that's gone now. We've got a uniparty government. And I think if reform get in, I don't see them necessarily too much better. And I don't want to get into an argument about that. I've got reasons for this. All right. But look, let's stick with me right now. So on my post-it note, since 2016 then, £6 billion pounds of property has been targeted for money laundering in London alone. Now, these figures don't really mean anything, do they? The next one, 150 billion in dirty money is cleared through the UK every year. The NHS budget is 192 billion. The defence budget was something like 60 billion. You can see now that it's really important that we have all this money. And why do we need the dirty money? Well, because we can tax it. Yeah. That's why no one's doing anything about it. That's why they're not shutting down these dodgy hairdressing places. How does that hairdressing place work then? I'll tell you. So Turkish barbers, Vietnamese nail salons, and these candy shops, right? Now these, I'll tell you how remember the shops they replaced though. So all these big shops that couldn't sustain their rents, massive businesses back in the 80s and 90s that, you know, if you've got one here, if you was to go into one of these shops, I'm gonna tell you these shops. You tell me whether you've got shops you used to go into or if you remember these names. Woolworth, remember the Pick and Mix? I used to go down there. Topshop, C&A, Littlewoods, British Home Stores, remember them? Debenhams, Dixons, Rumbelows. I think they were washing machines and stuff, weren't they? Tammy Girl. I bet you went into Tammy Girl, didn't you? I bet you were standing outside Tammy Girl. I wasn't standing outside Tammy Girl. What is it? Etam, Bay Trading, Ciro, Soterio. We all went in there for a shirt, didn't we? Athena for the posters. John Menzies, Lund Polly was in the station. Look, no, they weren't. They were a holiday place, weren't they? So you can see that all these places that were decent, solid businesses, they couldn't sustain the rents and they shut down. But the barber shops, of course they can pay them. They'd rather pay more money because they've got to wash all that money. How's it work then? So you go into one of these Turkish barber shops. I'd like a haircut, please. That'd be £10, please. You might be the only customer they see that day, maybe 2 or 3 customers. They're going to pretend to have seen 100, maybe 200 customers that day. So you're giving them 10 quid. They're pretending to see 100 customers, right? They're pretending to take in 1,000 quid. So for the drugs, county line drugs, they get that money, they literally dump it in the till. Oh look, we made £1,000 today. No one's checking how many people have been in there. They're washing the money. They're washing it all out, all right? Doing the same thing with nail salons, anything where there's a service and not a product. When you get these sweet shops down Oxford Street where there's 20 sweet shops in a row, right? They're doing the same thing. There's no prices on those sweet shops, are they? So you can't even tell. All the products are the same. You can't tell what they're selling. No one's buying anything. No one's even in there. Washing money, and the government knows about it. All right, of course the government knows about it. And why would the government allow that? Well, I'm about to come on to that now. This is money from drugs, people trafficking, what Katie Hopkins touched upon with Save the Children, coming across from Italy. She touched upon that, destroyed her career, of course, didn't it? Arms sales, criminal activities. The cash can't be spent. You can't just... So I bought a motorcycle. I couldn't buy it in cash, could I? I had to go and do a PCP, that kind of thing. I had to get into finance, I had to get in some kind of debt probably with it, you know what I mean? So I couldn't just walk in there, bag of cash. Try it. You can't do it. You can't take cash because you don't know where it's come from. You can't take cash into... A bank has to see a business. It has to go, oh, you've got the hairdressing salons, have you? Yeah, okay. Oh, you normally come in and deposit 30 grand a week. That's fine. Those are your takings. It's a cash business, isn't it? Go and ask them, can I pay by card? No, you can't. Card machine doesn't work, does it? Card machine doesn't work. Try it. Well, don't try it. Don't use them, for fuck's sake. You know what I mean? Right. So how's it work then? Normally services, not products. Always cash. They falsely inflate their revenues, their takings. There's no pricing on this. It takes 20 or 50% to wash that money. So someone's making a lot of money out of this, and they pretend to pay the people in their wages, but these people have probably been trafficked across the channel, and they're paying off their debt to the traffickers. So they can say, we pay our staff 30 grand a year, and then they don't at all. They just drop 30 grand. You know, just it's another way of getting rid of money. It's hard to prove. You have to monitor them the whole time. It's almost like the perfect crime. The landlords don't care because they're still getting paid, of course. It's easy to set up business in the UK, and dirty money fuels the UK because here's the thing about it. This is quite interesting. I'm going to give you a great quote in a second. Sums up the UK very, very well.
Guys, the Ukraine-Russia story is still very prominent in the news, but are we seeing the full story? My wonderful sponsors at Ground News here. Now, I love these guys and I use them for all of my news. Now, what they do is they piece together some amazing articles from publications all across the political spectrum, and you get access to every single angle that you could possibly need. Now, let's take a look at this article concerning the Ukraine-Russian war. Trump threatens Russia with tariffs and sanctions if it does not agree to end the war. Now, Ground News shows that there is 378 articles here covering this particular topic. Now, the Kiev Independent is a little bit more left-leaning, shall we say, focuses here on the likelihood of the US sanctioning Russia if Moscow refuses peace negotiation. Now, the South China Morning Post, a little bit more centrist. They kind of focus on what will happen consequentially if Russia doesn't really follow through with the peace talks. And lastly, clicking on the right, the India TV news may take it in a completely different way, and looking at it is like a threat-based thing and what might happen if they don't actually make that deal. And I love their bias distribution panel here on the right hand side. It says that the majority of publications that have been covering this are right, with only 34% left. And if you look at this factuality table here, it actually tells you how kind of trustworthy each one of those sources actually is. Ground News is my only way of getting unbiased news, guys. So if you want to go and subscribe through ground.news/FJP or click the QR code you can see on the screen now, you'll get 40% off their top tier Vantage plan. That's the one I use to work out what's going on in this Russian-Ukraine conflict. Thank you for Ground News for actually sponsoring me on this particular video.
The thing about it is, when you get that dirty money and you wash it, you can then go and spend it on legit items, motorcycles, cars, houses, yachts, whatever you want to. And of course, the government is going to take a tax share of that. It takes the tax and then it pays it into the NHS, pays it into whatever. So in doing so, you're washing the money, the government is still getting the money. So the government needs these illegitimate businesses to actually survive, because the government is corrupt as everything else, because the government recognises the fact that this country is broke. That's why we've got immigration coming in, guys, because we can't sustain the country without mass immigration. That's why it's never going to stop. That's why you're going to be less safe, and your women are going to be less safe as well. Now, listen to me when I talk about this. I'm going to bring Samson back in a second. I'm going to tell you what you need to do about it, all right? It's not easy, but you're a British man. You're an Englishman. Welsh, Scottish, Irish, you know what's going on, all right? We know how this is going to end. So most of this money obviously coming from these dirty countries, Russia, Albania. Most of the majority of foreign prisoners in UK jails are Albanian. It's just a fact. Pretty proud of the country. They come over here and do enough crime, but just saying. Turkey, Iran, Middle East, obviously laundering it. And we rely on mass immigration because it does expand the tax base, as I said. You know what I mean? It funds pensions. It funds the public services. Because when they wash the money, they go and buy these crazy cars. That's why they don't get pulled over or nothing. It's like, don't touch them. Let them do it, right? Because, I mean, they're spending money. It's getting taxed. It prevents financial panic. So the market still lends to us because we're still looking as if we are increasing the gross domestic product of the country. Even though the GDP per capita is going down, it doesn't matter. The GDP is going up, therefore people aren't shocked about the UK. We're going to collapse, guys. We know it's going to. France will be there, Germany will be there, America's going to. Don't worry about it. Because the Chinese have taken the last decade to just hunker down whilst we're faffing around. The Chinese are. Just do some reading. Keeps labour costs down, of course, for the big businesses, which big businesses loves. And of course, it masks deep economic failures. As I said, NHS and pensions, we haven't got to talk about the failures of those. The fact the pensions aren't going to get paid for. We haven't got to talk about the fact the NHS can't survive. Everything else just talked about. We've got low birth rates down at 1.6. It should be 2.1. We're going to mask that. It's going to become a Muslim country. Unless you listen to me. And then we won't be. All right? It's going to be destroyed anyway, guys. It just depends whether you want to destroy it or whether you want to let Muslims destroy it. And that's the truth, really, we're getting at. So I'm going to finish a little bit with Samson. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this quote. I'll tell you the quote first, and then I'll leave you with the bit about Samson. That's the important bit, all right? Appreciate you sticking with me. There's a quote from a program I used to watch called Succession from a guy called Logan, who was a head of the Roy family, Logan Roy, head of the Roy family, CEO of a massive multimedia company. He came over for a wedding in up the road from here, actually, in the UK, in the program, and he sort of stood there and he looked at this castle and he said this line. He said, I'm going to swear again. I mean, look at this fucking place. Slaves, cotton, sugar. So he's in England now. He came from America. He's in England, okay? This country is nothing but offshore laundering for turning evil into hard currency. And now it just lies here, living off its capital, sucking in immigrants to turn it and stop it getting bed sores. I mean, fuck me. If you want to describe England, I mean, that is it. That is what we are doing. Now, you might be like me, like a proud Englishman, a proud Welshman, Scotsman, Irishman. But the truth is, this country's in a very bad state. Very bad. Let me finish that story about Samson and I'll let you go. So my boy Samson with his long hair then may have been a little bit homosexual, we don't know. However, to be honest with you, he had a girlfriend called Delilah. She was obviously a massive kind of grass, whatever, and she was a Philistine. He was a Nazarite, Israelite, in fact. And what happened is she was bribed to get a lock of his hair. We spoke about this, and in doing so, he lost all his strength. Very strong man. As I said, took on a whole Philistine army with just a donkey's jawbone. I mean, that's my weapon of choice. Okay, if this shit goes down, whoop, you better be ready. Donkey's jawbones. That's how we're taking it down. So he obviously was captured. He got his hair. He lost all his strength. He was taken into this into Philistine, whatever, and eventually he was taken into a temple, blinded, taken into a temple. In that temple then, his hair had regrown like a mad lad, right? So he's a bit riled up now, a blind one, can't really see, but he's still, mad as 10 snakes, right? And he's in this, he's leaning on he asked to rest against leaning on a temple. He's like leaning on a pillar, asked to rest. And what he does then, he looks up and he pleads to God, return my strength. And God says, yes, mate, even with your long hair, I will return your strength. Samson gets that strength, turns round, shakes the pillar and rips the temple down, killing a load of Philistines and himself in the process. That temple is your kingdom and it is England. And as an Englishman like me, we're going to have to do some shaking, unfortunately, guys. It's going anyway, all right? We may as well be the ones that are going to do it, right? You know what I'm saying? With our Welsh brothers, with our Scottish brothers and with our Irish brothers and sisters throughout these great lands. That's how it's going to be. I'm going to leave you with that. But you know your role. It's going to come to this eventually. Just prep yourself. I keep saying it, don't I? Fitness, family, finance and fuel. Hit the gym. Get out in the countryside, all right? Look after the people around you. It's going to be about community. It's not about politics. We've just got these liberal governments, uniparty. It doesn't matter whether it's Reform. It doesn't matter whether it's Labour. It doesn't matter whether it's Conservative. It's all the same thing, man. It's a uniparty, isn't it? Uniparty, yeah? It's not going to work. That's not going to save you. They're all bought. All of them are bought. This will never end. Politics is not the answer. Local community is the answer. You are the answer. All right, I'll let you go, guys. I appreciate you sticking with this long anyway. Tim Davies, Fast Ship Performance.